Chapter 8 Pulse Abracadabra Street. Cosmo hadn't spoken much all the way back from space. He wasn't sulking exactly, because there was no one to be angry with. He was just wondering when it was all going to end. How many times did one person have to escape death in a week? And now he was being asked to go back to the place of his nightmares. The place he'd spent the past 14 miserable years trying to get away from. "Will you do it?" asked Stefan when they were gathered around the table. Cosmo studied the faces looking back at him. The Supernaturalists. He was one of them now, after all. He got into space for them. But it wasn't all for him, or even the group. This energy pulse had to be detonated for every human on the planet. When you grew up an orphan, sometimes it was difficult to think about anyone except yourself. But now he had Mona to think about, and Stefan ditto as well. It's a simple plan, continued Stefan. "Oh, like the last simple plan?" said Cosmo. "That was a simple plan, until you begin improvising. This time, you will simply be pointing the way." "You make it sound simple, but something will happen. It always does. I've noticed that my new knee starts to itch in trouble this year, and it's itching like crazy now." "Trust the knee, Cosmo," said Ditto in a spooky voice. "Shut up, Ditto," snapped Mona. "This is important." "Sure, it's real important for them. It's real important that we plant my issues bomb for them. It's a pulse, an energy pulse. So they say. Who knows what this thing really does?" Stefan opened the briefcase, swiveling it to face the Bartoli baby. "It's a pulse, Ditto, okay? I checked it myself." Ditto ignored the device. "Yeah, whatever. Did my issue give you stock options too?" Mona lost the tempo. "Can't you say anything positive? I begin to wonder which side you're on." Ditto jumped to his feet. Not that it made much difference. "What's that supposed to mean?" Stefan put a hand on Mona's arm. "Leave it." "No, I'm starting to think that you don't want us to catch any of the parasites." Ditto's face was crimson red. "Maybe I don't want us to catch them for my ishi." "Well then, maybe you should find some other line of work." They stared at each other for several seconds. Then Ditto broke eye contact, storming off to the elevator. You were out of line, Mona," said Stefan, when the echoes of the argument had faded. Mona folded her arms stubbornly. So was he. Stefan stood, selecting a suit from a hanging rail. "You're going to have to apologize before I get back." "Before we get back," said Cosmo. "You'll never get under there without me." Stefan threw him a small suit from the rack. "Well done, Cosmo. I need you to lead me into the lion's den. You're going back to Clarissa Frayne. One last time." The Clarissa Frayne Institute for the Parentally Challenged. Marshall Redwood wasn't unduly concerned when the two suits came in from the front door. The men were probably medical reps looking to test some new product. They looked a bit like a comedy double act, one tall one and one short one. They could have been slave traders as far as Redwood was concerned. If they wanted to kidnap the orphans, Redwood would help them load the truck. He didn't owe the Clarissa Frayne Institute a single thing, especially since not after they demoted him and stuck him behind a desk in the security booth pending an investigation. And all because of that slippery-nosed sponsor, Cosmo Hill. Apparently, Cosmo had survived the dive he took from the rooftop and was now listed as a fugitive. If Cosmo had just been a good little boy and died when he was supposed to, then Redwood would not have to sit here with the other lame idiots, watching TV 8 hours per day. Fred Alascanti, possibly the biggest idiot in Satellite City, was drinking some coffee in the security booth's only decent chair. "Hey, Fred, you want to give me a ton in the swivel chair?" Fred took another annoying slip of brown liquid. "No can do, Redwood. My back plays up something terrible if I don't support it right." Redwood frowned. "What if I'll just take the chair? Let's say I'll just go crazy and throw you straight out the window and just occupy the chair while you're getting your sutures." "Go ahead, big shot," grinned Fred. "I could use the compensation money." Maybe Alascanti wasn't as dumb as he looked. Well, at least stop slurping that sim coffee. I swear, Fred, you're driving me demented. Who knows what I might do? Fred pointed to the security camera overhead. Make sure you didn't have footage on camera, Redwood. I can use the footage of my court case. Redwood's face burned red. Even Fred was getting lippy since he'd been demoted. He needed to get back on the streets, back where he had some real power. If only he could somehow recover Cosmo. The red alert began to beep softly on the security computer. The icon was in the shape of a running man. One of the no sponsors was on the move outside a designated area. At last, someone to vent his frustrations to. Redwood activated the tracker pattern program, running a match on the pattern. One by one, the orphans were eliminated, as they were located to their beds or designated leisure areas. Who was on the move? Who was left? The signal was very faint, as if most of the electromagnetic medical beads used to track the orphans had been removed, or shorted out. Shorted out? Redwood's heart rate speeded up. Only 2 orphans could have shorted out their microbeads. One was dead, and the other was Cosmo. Redwood called up Cosmo's pattern. It was very faint, only the faintest pulse, but definitely active. The ex-marshal doubted if the scanners would have picked him up at all if he wasn't close by. Very close by. On the way down to the basement by the looks of it. Redwood consulted the security screens, checking the 2 suits he mistaken for medical researchers. The short one must be Cosmo. For some insane reason, Hill had actually returned. Redwood didn't know why, and he didn't care. This was his chance to redeem himself. He could bring in Hill and his accomplice. Well, of course, he would need to talk to Hill first alone, to make sure they got their story straight about the night of the crash. Redwood stood, taking a rod from the gun cabinet. Hey, Redwood, said Fred. What are you doing with the rod? You're not a floor marshal anymore. Redwood didn't even look at him. I'm going on my rounds. Rounds? What are you, a doctor? We're security. We all do rounds here. That's why we have cameras. Not in the basement, we don't. It's about time someone checked down there. You wanna come? Scanty rolled back in the swivel chair, wrapping his hands around a warm coffee mug. No thanks, Redwood. It's all yours. That's what I thought, said Redwood, holstering the rod. Cosmo and Stefan walked straight through the front door. Cosmo's knees almost buckled as soon as he felt the smell of the Institute's cheap disinfectant hit his nostrils. He stood still for a moment, allowing the memories to wash over him. Ziploc, Redwood, and years of medical experiments. He took several deep breaths, steeling himself. Stefan peered at him under the brim of a felt fedora. Are you okay, Cosmo? He said, waving the bristles of his false mustache, waving slightly. I'm okay. Let's go. Are you sure? Cosmo nodded. 10 minutes, and we're in and out. They approached the admissions booth, and Stefan flashed 2 laminated fake IDs at a guard playing a handheld video game. Cosmo kept his head down, in the shadow of his own fedora. Composite, said the guard, trying to look as though he cared. You guys had quite a fire over there last week. Stefan nodded. Yeah, took out the entire canteen. Worse luck. The guard shook his head sympathetically. What are you testing this time? Stefan patted the attaché case under his arm. I could tell you, but then I'd have to kill you. The guard gave him 2 visit passes. Yeah, sure, good one. You can collect his ID cards on your way out. Stefan clipped the pass to his lapel, handing the other to Cosmo. The guard was back playing his video game before they had taken half a dozen steps. He never even looked at me, whispered Cosmo. Stefan smiled. I don't pay these gods enough to pay attention. Cosmo led them through the vaulted steel reception area, lined with 3D photos and a long dead Clarissa Frame doing noble things with youngsters, hiking, reading, digging holes, and various other outdoor activities. There was nothing noble about the Frame Institute. The authorities were more inclined to dip the no sponsors in experimental vats than take them mountaineering. They passed several guards, but no one questioned them. There were simply 2 more suits from the medical company. And anyway, who would possibly have a motive to break into an orphanage? Cosmo kept his eyes down and his collar up, hoping that people would not think he was a short man. He was a short man and not a tall kid. In here, said Cosmo, shouldering a flimsy plastic door hidden behind a statue of Clarissa Frame. In this particular statue, the Institute's founder was cradling an abandoned infant. Every orphan in the orphanage had heard stories about Miss Frame. Apparently, the woman had hated children, and she was the one who had coined the term "no sponsors." The doorway opened to a claustrophobic corridor, devoid of decoration and with only emergency lighting. "Charming," said Stefan. "You should see the dormitories," commented Cosmo. The corridor became colder as it sank below sea level. The emergency lights grew more and more ancient, until eventually the wall was illuminated by wall-mounted coil bulbs. "Light bulbs," chuckled Stefan. "You don't see those anymore outside the movie theater. All the power is leached from the main power lines. Clarissa Frame has been doing it for as long as I can remember. For some reason, down here is the only place that no sponsors can go without being detected." Stefan nodded. "Of course. The energy leak would wipe out your scanner patterns." The corridor sank down and down until it finally came to a dead end, flanked by 2 overflow pipes. "Back in the early days, when the city used to flood, these made sure the basement drained." "And now?" Cosmo hauled back a maintenance hatch. It opened surprisingly easy. "Now the orphans use them to hang out." Inside the pipe were several levels, constructed from cardboard and waste pig iron. Rickety ladders connected into each level, descending farther into the darkness. Stefan tested a ladder with his weight. It collapsed beneath him. "I'm not 12 years old anymore," he said, opening his jacket. Strapped to his chest was one of the vests that Ditto had stolen from the lawyers on the roof of the Stromberg building. He tore open the Velcro pad covering the rappelling kit and wrapped the cord around a solid handle. Stefan slapped his own back. "Okay, Cosmo, climb on." Cosmo did as he was told. "Next time, purposely, we will just use the stairs. Just for once." Stefan winked. I'll see what I can do," he said, swinging down the blacklist of the pipe. It seemed to drop forever, right down to the center of the earth. In fact, the cord ran out before the pipe. Stefan took a lumen light from one of his pockets. He snapped it open to activate the luminous crystals before dropping it to the ground. The bottom of the pipe was inches away. "Maybe tonight is our lucky night," he said. "It's about time." They disengaged from the rappelling cord, dropping to the floor with a thump. The pipe was almost entirely corroded, so they felt their way on out onto a hard rock floor. Cosmo stubbed his toe against the thick cable. He dropped to his knees, tracing it back to the junction box. "I've got something here. A switch." "Makes sense," said Cosmo. "If the Clarissa Flame people are stealing power, they would have to be able to see what they're doing. Turn it on, Cosmo." Cosmo wrapped his fingers around the thick switch and pulled until he heard a sharp click. The cavern was instantly illuminated by a dozen halogen spotlights. They were in a vast tunnel, originally blasted by Satellite City's sandhog crews almost a century ago to accommodate gas, water, and electricity pipes. The 100-foot-high power conduits had been stripped back to bare wires in places and were feeding several small generators, a bass hum emanating from the naked wires. The wires weren't exactly naked. They were clothed in a luminous blue carpet. Sleeping parasites. Millions of them. Each creature's heart, silver heart, pulsed in time with the alternating current. Stefan tightened his grip on the energy pulse. "This must be the place," he whispered. Cosmo's first thought was to run. It was also his second thought, too. Stefan placed a hand on his shoulder. "Don't worry, Cosmo. We're not dying or in pain. If we were, they'd be all over us. All we have to do is tread carefully, and there's no reason for the parasites to take any notice. Hell, we could sing opera now, and it wouldn't wake them up. They don't respond to sound, just pain." "You sure about that? You have actual evidence?" "Not as such, no. But I feel it in my gut." Cosmo giggled with more than a touch of hysteria. "I'm feeling something in my gut, too." "All you have to do is stay put. I'll plant the energy pulse, then we go out the way we came in. 2 minutes. That's it." Stefan walked carefully through the maze of piping and cable, stepping over sleeping parasites as he went. His aim was to plant the pulse as close as he could to the heart of the group as he could, where it would do the most damage. They would remote detonate from the street, unleashing an electrical storm on the creatures. If Faustino's theory was correct, the dirty energy should rip their hearts right out of the parasites, but not affect the humans at all, as long as they weren't too close to the blast. Stefan climbed an ancient stepladder, wrenching gently the attache case between the main pipe's lower curve. There were parasites all around, breathing, glowing, and living. He climbed up the ladder, turning to give Cosmo the thumbs up. He never completed the gesture, because Cosmo was not alone. A large man had pinned him from the neck from behind, with a rod pressed into the skin of his cheek. "Hey," said the man. "Nice of you to drop in and plant a bomb under us all." Stefan was accustomed to acting under pressure. If it had been just him and the stranger, he would have gone for his rod, but now someone else's life was on the line. "Do it," the man grinned. "Reach for your weapon, and this kid will be sucking plastic faster than you can blink." "Take it easy, Redwood," said Cosmo. "You don't know what's going on here." "I know, all right," said Redwood. "You're trying to blow up the Institute and put me out of a job." "Oh, Agnes would love that." Stefan took a slow step closer. "Redwood, I've heard of you. You like to beat up children. You want to take a chance on someone your own size?" "Redwood laughed. "My own size? Kid, you're half a foot taller than me. I'm not stupid. Just take out your weapon and slide it over." Stefan felt a bead of sweat slide down his backbone. They were safe from the creatures, unless someone got hurt. Then the parasites would awaken. "Okay, Redwood, take it easy. Use my lightning rod." Stefan lifted his weapon from his holster with 2 fingers. He set the rod down, kicked it across the floor. "There. You see? I'm unarmed." "And the detonator," ordered Redwood. "Don't tell me you were going to blow yourself up with the building. You have a detonator under there, so hand it over." Stefan ground his teeth in frustration. "Redwood, this is not what you think. Just listen for a minute." Redwood jammed a chin under Cosmo's chin. "You listen, moron. It's simple enough. Give me the detonator or I'll rob the boy, for starters." Okay, here it comes." Stefan unbuttoned the flap on his suit pants, drawing out the metal cylinder with a red button on top. The red button was protected by a plexiglass cap. Idiot-proof, no timer. Just flick and press. Stefan gave diplomacy one last shot. Marshal Redwood, this is not a bomb. It's an energy pulse. There are creatures all around us." "Shut up!" commanded Redwood, jamming the shrink wrapper painfully into Cosmo's neck. Painfully. The parasites were beginning to sit up. Electricity was all very well, but there was pain to be had. "Slide over the detonator! Now!" A wave of parasites popped up like falling dominoes in reverse, their soulful eyes searching for the source of the pain. 1,000,000 eyes landed on Cosmo. 1,000,000 and counting. "Redwood," stammered Cosmo. "We have to get out of here now. They're coming." The parasites sprang from their perches, advancing in waves along the bark floor. They ignored Stefan completely, focusing on Cosmo. Stefan flicked the detonator's lid. "Let him go, Redwood, or we all go up." "You're bluffing," spat Redwood. "You won't do it. You're no fanatic." Stefan's thumb hovered over the button. "You know something? You're right. We're not fanatics. In fact, we're really grounded." The parasites flowed all around him, leaping over his head. Stefan was barely visible in the sea of blue. "Grounded," thought Cosmo. "What does that mean?" Then he got it. Grounded. Of course. Cosmo made sure his rubber-soled boots made solid contact with the tunnel floor and closed his eyes. This was gonna sting. Stefan's thumb settled on the button. "Last chance, Marshal. What are you going to do?" The parasites were inches from Cosmo's neck. "I'm gonna wrap the kid first, and then you," said Redwood. "Wrong answer," said Stefan, and pressed the button. The energy pulse detonated, unleashing a mushroom cloud of tainted power into the tunnel. With the howl of a hurricane, the mushroom grew to fill the space, then sank into the rock. The halogen spotlights blew out immediately, sending sparks showering down like neon snow. Lightning bolts sparked from the center of the blast, targeting the parasites' silver hearts. They were skewered, dozens on each bolt, vibrating as the dirty energy passed through their organic filters. The lightning rods split like a spider web, spearing parasites after parasites in turn. The creatures suddenly attempted to deal for the sudden influx of power, but it was too much for their systems. One by one, they flashed blue, and collapsed to the rock floor, their silver hearts cold and black. The humans fared slightly better, especially Cosmo and Stefan. The rebels sold boots, connected the worst of the shock away from their bodies. Nevertheless, they were given a severe rattling by the power surge. Cosmo felt his eyes roll back in his head, and the legs of his trousers began to smoke. Stefan's hair stood up tall on his head, and his suit jacket caught fire. He whipped it off, slapping it against the rocks. Redwood, unfortunately, was not so lucky. He had stupidly released his grip on Cosmo when he realized that Stefan wasn't bluffing. If he only hung on for a few more seconds, the energy surge would pass through him to the boy. As it was, he felt the brunt of the full charge. The effect, while not spectacular, in comparison to what happened to the parasites, was no less permanent. The electricity ignited the viscous hair oil he liked to slather in his precious locks, and burnt every follicle of hair from his head. Not only that, but scorched the pores so the hairs couldn't grow back. Then the electricity picked up the marshal as if he were in a giant fist and slammed him into the tunnel wall. As he lay there, his clothes singed and dropped off, till the man was wearing nothing more than Bugs Bunny long johns. Cosmo shook the shock from his system. What is that? The room was lit up by lightning bolts. Stefan picked up his lightning rod. Bugs Bunny, a duty rabbit. What's up, dog? That was his catchphrase. The light faded as the parasites dropped to the ground. Their hearts were black and shriveled, like lumps of coal. We did it, said Stefan, his smile grim in the faint light. Yeah, we got him. Stefan snapped the looming light. Not all of them, but it's a start. We know it can be done. Now we need to get out of here, or we'll be blamed for this, and not the good marshal here. Cosmo nodded. Redwood would take the plane for the power cut. It was a nice bonus. One of the marshal's eyes flickered open. Cosmo leaned in close. That was for Ziploc bugs, he said. The Clarissa Frank Institute was in total chaos. Not only was the main generator gone, but the emergency power too. The dormitory kids had been deactivated, and the tracker pattern program was dead. The no sponsors had escaped from their beds by piling their foam mattresses on the floor and using them as a crash pad. Now they were running riot. Most of the guards were on transfer duty, so it was left to a single squad to remain order. Fred had taken charge with disastrous results. So far, he had managed to trap 2 of his own men, and allowed several orphans to slip through the main doors. Luckily for the security team, the fire doors locked them automatically in the event of a power cut. It finally occurred to Aliscanti to construct a barricade in front of the main stairs, so that they would hold the orphans there until power was restored. Cosmo and Stefan approached the menace from behind. Aliscanti was firing cellophane slugs at anyone who poked his head around the corner. So far, he'd only hit things he wasn't aiming at. The stairwell was covered in so many globs of cellophane that resembled the inside of a handkerchief. You know sponsors had better get back to bed, he roared, or you'll spend tomorrow in the vat. I'm not kidding you. Cosmo felt his temper rising. Those kids will suffer, he told Stefan. Every time something goes wrong, the guards blame us. Stefan passed his charred jacket to Cosmo. Not this time, he said. Cosmo felt his temper. The tall Russian youth drew his lightning rod and loaded a clip of gumballs. He slammed 3 of the guards from behind and displaced the other 3 with well-placed blows. In all, it took under 4 seconds. The orphans came down one of the stairs of the tide, crashing the barricade and pulling around Cosmo and Stefan's boots. Any of you ever been outside on your own? Asked Stefan. A little kid shuffled forward, his eyes barely visible behind a hank of black hair. I escaped from the streets for a couple of weeks before they bagged me. Oh, what's your name? My street name is Fence, on account of that's what I do. Stefan took the boy's hand, then wrote a number on the boy's palm. Run south, Fence, boys, past the blockade. Fence knows the way. When you get to the canal, call this number. Fence raised his free hand. Yes, Fence? They got some kind of trackers on us. Last time the marshals bagged me with as soon as I was set one foot in the outside bushka. Did you feel shocked just now? The boys nodded. Some of them still had socket hair. Well, that was an energy pulse. It shorted out the power and the track of microbeads in your pores. You're free to go. The orphans were silent for a moment, digesting this momentous news. Then they burst into a spontaneous cheer, clambering up Stefan's tall frame like squirrels. Hold it now, said Stefan. You have to move before reinforcements show up. Call this number. The man on the other end is a friend of mine. He's always on the lookout for market boys. They'll give you work and a place to stay. The wages aren't huge, but they're fair. Fence squinted. This could be another trick. How do we know we can trust you? Cosmo stepped forward. Remember me, Fence? Fence swept the hair from his eyes. Cosmo, hell! What even is it? We all thought you were dead. What happened to your face? Cosmo rubbed the bulging robotics plate in his forehead. It's a long story, Fence. Maybe later. Just do what Stefan says. You can trust him. He saved my life. Anyway, life outside has got to be better than here. This is the only chance you'll ever have for a clean break. The words sprang along the stairway. Cosmo was alive, and this man was his friend. If Cosmo could survive on the outside, then they all could. Okay, said Fence. I'll call the number. But if you'll send this up, I'll hunt you down. The little boy shook out his head. Stefan shook it. Fair enough. A siren sounded in the distance. Obviously, news of the breakout spread to the authorities. Time to go, said Cosmo. Now or never. No! Decided the diminutive Fence. He led the no sponsors into the night like a modern-day Pied Piper. Abracadabra Street. Mona knew she would have to apologize to Ditto. She was just putting it off for as long as possible. Crunch time came when Stephens called to say they were on their way home. The mission had been a total success, and they'd be pulling into the garage in 10 minutes. If she didn't shake off her sulk right now and apologize, Stefan would drag her up onto the roof. All right, she moaned to no one in particular. I'll apologize, but only because I'm the bigger person, in more ways than one. The elevator was on the roof level, so to save time, Mona took the fire escape. The elevator was so old that it still had ropes and pulleys instead of a magnetic field. By the time it reached her floor, she could have finished apologizing and cooked a 5-course meal along the way. Mona climbed the outside of 1405 Abracadabra Street, keeping close to the wall to avoid the acid mist that shimmered earthward. Pretty soon, the mist would turn to mothball-sized raindrops, and the sound of car alarms would reverberate throughout Satellite City. She arrived on the rooftop just as Ditto was leaving it. The Bartali baby had laid down a ladder and was crossing to an adjacent building. Hey, Ditto, what are you doing? But the wind snatched her words away, and Ditto didn't turn around. Very strange. What did he think he was playing at? Mona knew what she should do was come back later, but she also knew she wouldn't. This entire situation was too intriguing. So, moving forward with cat-like grace and silence, Mona followed her fellow supernaturalists across to the next building. Ditto had left the ladder down, so that meant he intended on coming back. Mona would have to be careful. If she didn't return before Ditto, she could be stranded on this rooftop with the rain coming. Ditto hurried across the pig iron surface, skirting the oily puddles that had been eating through the roof over the years. Mona clambered on top of the roof box. From there, she could see everything, but from his low vantage point, Ditto couldn't see her. The diminutive supernaturalist crossed the northern corner of the building. The statue of Endeavor punched and punctuated the skylight beyond them, and its red light winking in its hand. There was a blue light, too, closer, on the rooftop itself. Mona drew a sharp breath. A single parasite lay on the shadow of the roof's edge. That explained it. Ditto must have seen the creature on the parabola and had come to investigate. What would he do now? He never carried a weapon, and Stefan had already detonated their only energy surge. Mona was about to leap down from the roof box and join her companion when Ditto did a strange thing. He knelt down before the creature and held out his hand. The parasite, weak from a lack of energy, its pulsating heart a dull blue, reached out its 4-fingered hand towards Ditto. They were acknowledging each other, communicating. Mona nearly fell off the roof. This was incredible. Who was Ditto? What was he? All this time, had he been a traitor in their midst? She fumbled her cell phone from her pocket, calling off Stefan's number on the speed dial. But no, that wasn't enough. It would still be her word against Ditto's. She needed more. Mona's phone was a pretty old one, without much in the way of technology, but did have picture capabilities, 60 seconds of video or 100 stills. Mona selected video and pointed the phone's fisheye lens towards Ditto and his blue friend. Just in time to see Ditto deliberately cut his finger with a penknife and offered the wound to the parasite. The creature wrapped four fingers around the wound, draining a sliver stream of life force. In seconds, its natural bright blue color had been restored. It released Ditto and floated to its feet. Mona checked the video to make sure she had seen what she thought she'd seen. Ditto had healed the parasite. It all made sense now. Of course Ditto had never carried a rod, and of course he never argued against the energy pulse. He was in league with the parasites. Ditto was sucking the wound on his finger when the elevator door opened. Stefan and Cosmo had returned. And he gathered around Mona in a tight group, looking at something. It was her phone screen. Hey, what's that? Asked the Bartoli baby. One of those comedy emails? Some of those things are hilarious. Stefan took the phone in trembling hands. His face was tight and pale. Yes, Tito. Do you want to take a look? It's a real scream. By the way, what happened to your finger? Pins and needles erupted all over Ditto's back. I caught it on that panel, on the elevator door. You know, the one that sticks out? I know the one. Here, have a look. Ditto took the phone, pressing the play triangle. For a moment, he didn't realize what he was looking at. But then, it was terrifyingly clear. He had been caught, rumbled. Finally, after all this time, the moment of truth had come. Or the moment for truth. Okay, he said, handing back the phone. This looks bad. I know. But I can't explain. Seven looked straight ahead, avoiding Ditto's eyes. Pack your gear and get out. I want you gone by morning. Wait a minute. Hear me out. Ditto, Mona advanced to the Bartoli baby. All this time. Why didn't I see it? No wonder you wouldn't shoot the parasites. No wonder you argued against anything that might actually work. Ditto backed up a step. Anything that might actually work? It wasn't like that. What was it like, Tito? Every day, stabbing us in the back. Stabbing humans everywhere in the back. Why don't you go over to Clarissa Flame and heal all those parasites that Cosmo just blew up? Ditto hung his head. I wish I could, he mumbled. The comment enraged Stefan. He picked up Ditto by the collar, standing him on the workbench. You wish you could? How long have you been betraying us, Tito? From the very beginning? 3 years? The accusations beat down on Ditto like hammer blows. The little man seemed to shrink even further, hunching in on himself. Seven poked him in the chest. If I see you again, I will treat you like an enemy. And believe me, you don't want that. You don't understand, Stefan, protested the Bartoli baby. You don't see what's happening. Stefan laughed in the face. Oh, let me guess. Another conspiracy theory? Mahishi is running us for their own ends. Oh, better yet, Ellie Faustino has been lying through her teeth. The truth burst out of Ditto like a missile. They take pain, he blurted. Cosmo felt something big was coming. Whatever Ditto said next would change all of their lives forever. The parasites take pain, not life force, just pain. They help us. They have always helped us. Seven turned his back on Ditto. He didn't want to hear this. Rubbish! You'll say anything to save your skin. Do you remember when Lincoln asked me in the junkyard? Mona remembered. You're mules. He asked if you were sensitive. Ditto sat on the bench. Bartoli babies often have certain gifts. I have healing hands. I can take your pain away. I knew it, said Cosmo. After my incident, you took my headache. You said it was the medicine, but it was you. Ditto nodded. This gift is something I'll have in common with the parasites. We do the same thing. Maybe that's why I'm sensitive to them. I feel the supernatural, and they feel me. People call it second sight. Cosmo remembered something. Back in the junkyard, Lincoln said you had healing hands. I thought he was talking about you being a medic, but he knew taking pain was about tolerant mutation. Ditto examined his own palms. They're not actually healing hands, Cosmo. Nothing heals the body faster than the body itself. I'll just take away pain. Stefan absolutely refused to believe it. This is junk. All junk. Parasites are nature, Ditto persisted. They're energy converters, just like me. Just like every other being on the planet in one way or another. All my life, I've been able to see them and feel them. I was afraid of them at first, until I realized they were just doing what I did. They aren't some malignant species, Stefan. They're attracted to pain. They take it and convert it to energy. The cycle of all life. Stefan whirled. His face was red with barely suppressed anger. And what about my mother? I saw what the parasites did to her! She was dying, said Citadel softly. They helped her. They eased her passing. The parasites take away the pain when it's too late for the body to heal itself. That used to be the case before they began multiplying out of control. Before we upset the natural order. One reason. Give me one good reason to believe you now when you have lied to us for so long. Diddle sat on the table, rubbing his hands with the heels of it, eyes with the heels of his hands. For as long as I can remember, the creatures have been here. We don't communicate exactly, not like humans, but we sense each other. I'll know when they're agitated or sleepy. There was one other Bartoli baby with the same ability, number 82, but the second sight terrified him and drove him insane. Now he lives in Bushka and wears a blindfold. He never takes it off. I didn't go crazy because I suspected the creatures were there to help us, make the pain bearable, and prepare them for the next life. Cosmo interrupted. There's a next life? Yes. I'll catch glimpses of it every now and then. Even Mona was interested. What's it like? Dilla thought about it. Different. Quiet! Yelled Stefan. All of you! If this is true, why didn't you tell me years ago? Oh, Ditto lifted his eyes. I almost told you a million times, but I had no real proof except what I felt. For the first time ever, I was part of a family, and saying what I felt would have destroyed that. And for what? You never would have believed me then or without proof. If anything, you were more fanatical in the beginning. Time is beginning to mellow you, Stefan. Recently, you even started to worry about the troops. That's a new development. You could have tried. Oh no, I should have, but I decided to do what I could from within. You weren't actually destroying the parasites. I felt that all along, and I was able to do whatever I could for the accident victims. I didn't know we were helping the creatures reproduce. Fight from the inside, muttered Cosmo. Ditto nodded. Stefan, not exactly. And it would have been just fine if Maishi hadn't gotten involved. Do you realize what you did tonight, Stefan? If what you say is true, you killed a huge number of those creatures. I wish I had the courage to tell you the truth earlier, but I never thought that this energy pulse scheme would work. Scientifically, it even shouldn't. How many humans are in pain right now because I stayed quiet? Humans like your mother. Seven began to shake. Shut up! You don't want to listen, Stefan, because for years you've had someone to blame for your mother's death. This is the truth, Stefan. Accept it! I don't know what it is, but it's not the truth. Nothing you've ever told us was the truth. You wouldn't know the truth if it popped out of a manhole and took a bite out of your Bartoli backside. Dilo took out his phone. Just call Faustino. Tell her you have reservations. Ask her team of scientists to study the possibility that these creatures do not drain life force, just pain. Natural anesthesia. Why should I? Because if I'm right, thousands of people are crippled with pain who shouldn't be, just as your mother wasn't at the end. Just as you weren't, if you let yourself remember. Cosmo remembered how, after his rooftop fall, his pain had disappeared the moment the creature had touched him. He remembered how all he felt was calm, no fear. And if you're wrong, asked Stefan. Ditto stood on the bench, drawing himself up to his full height. If I'm wrong, I'll pop out of a manhole and take a bite out of my own Bartoli backside. Faustino was in the car when Stefan called. I thought I might be hearing from you, Stefan, she said, a smile tugging at the corner of her lips. That was you at the satellite, wasn't it? Floyd Faustino, indeed. However did you get those access codes? Surely I didn't accidentally allow you to glimpse my computer screen. I don't know what you're talking about, said Stefan innocently. I thought you might take matters into your own hands, continued Ellen. In fact, I hope you might. Sometimes the red tape just takes too long to unravel. It's starting to sound like I'm working for you, Professor Faustino. Faustino's smile widened. Yes, it does, doesn't it? That was you at Clarissa Frame, too, I presume. The Supernaturalists don't waste any time, do they? Stefan chose his words carefully. If that was us, and I'm not for 1 second admitting that might have been, then we may have a problem. Ellie frowned. A problem? But the energy pulse worked perfectly. I would have preferred if you had knocked out the power in 10 save blocks, but it was a short term, and my team had been gathering unspec 4 bodies all morning. It was Steven's turn to frown. Gathering bodies? What for? Why? Ellie held a finger to her lips. I don't want to say any more on a company line. I've already said too much. Just excited, I suppose. You can see it for yourself on your next visit. To pick up my paycheck, said Stefan Riley. I'm a busy woman, Stefan. What's this problem that's got you all so worried? One of my team, a soon-to-be ex-member, feels that the parasites, on Spec 4, that is, may not be as malignant as we thought. He believes that they simply ease our suffering, take our pain, as it were. If that's true, then there's no need to fight them. What? Faustino paused. I can't imagine how that would be possible, but put my entire team on it immediately. No more energy pulses until we determine the truth. Just stand down for the time being until we can put some trials together. It shouldn't take more than a couple weeks to get the results. Can you wait that long? I've waited 3 years, replied Stefan. I can wait a couple more weeks. Faustino's eyes were downcast. I know this must be hard for you to accept, Stefan, but remember, nothing has been proven yet. We may still be on the right track. 2 weeks, said Stefan, closing the phone. Dido released the breath he'd been holding in for almost the entire call. 2 weeks. I'm right. You'll see. Seven threw the phone at him. I don't want to hear it, Tito. Whatever the results of Professor Faustino's trials, you've been lying to us for years. We've put our faith and our lives in your hands, and they were never your priority. I never did anything to hurt anybody or anything. I won't apologize for that. Even if you could, it's too late for apologies, Tito. You deceived us all. We can't trust you anymore. At first sight, I want you out of here. Stefan looked into Stefan's eyes. They were hard and hurt. Very well. If that's how you want it, then that's how it will be. Stefan turned his back on the Bartoli baby. That's how I want it, he said. Cosmo lay on his bunk, watching a cluster of rust mites eating into a bolt head in the ceiling. It seemed that as soon as the Supernaturalists came out of one crisis, another one dropped from the sky on their heads. Cosmo felt like a rat in a maze, never knowing what seemingly innocent course of action would lead to disaster. And for what? So they could persecute a group of supernatural creatures who were just trying to help mankind? Especially if what Diddle said was true. Look on the bright side, he told himself. At least your hair is growing. In a couple months, you won't look like the back end of a troll anymore. Mona appeared in the doorway to his cubicle. Oh, yay! You're awake? Cosmo sat up on the bunk. Yes, I'll got a couple hours sleep, but I'll dream about Ditto. Mona perched on the end of the bunk. I know what you mean. I don't think Stefan can cope with this. First, he's having the parasites multiply, then it seems like they were only trying to take our pain. If Tito was right. Yes, if Tito is right. Mona pulled her hair into a ponytail and wrapped a band around it. I've been thinking about moving on, Cosmo. Maybe, maybe getting a job with Jean-Pierre in Bushka. He's been trying to rope me in for years. Anyway, if he's not going to be around much longer, someone has to keep the gang's cars on the road. Cosmo felt his stomach churn. The idea of Mona leaving never occurred to him. Are you sure? You seem like such an action girl. Mona smiled. Yeah, I love to shoot them up. It's like a video game. Blast evil blue aliens, but they're not aliens. And maybe they're not even evil. I don't think I could point a rod at something unless I was 100% certain. Cosmo nodded. He felt the same. So I was thinking, I'm going to need a grease monkey. Someone who learns quick. You think you could do a simple oil change? Cosmo grinned, his teeth shining in the darkness. Me? You want me to come with you? You want me to come with you? Mona punched his shoulder. Why not? We make a good team. You're always saving me. Cosmo opened his mouth to say yes, but the words stuck in his throat. I'd love to, Mona. There's something I like more. But Stefan took me in. Mona's eyes were sad, but not surprised. I understand, Cosmo. Don't worry. I'm not going anywhere until Faustino has finished her test. Maybe you'll change your mind. Maybe, said Cosmo gloomily. Just him and Stefan. Well, laugh riot that would be. Maishi paralegals were very good at being quiet. Entire squadron could run past a deer, and the animal would never even cock his head. They also had a lot of high-tech gadgetry that helped each of them be even more sneaky. Each paralegal carried a total around of 30 pounds of equipment to help them climb, cut, burn, and capture. The paralegals and the 30 pounds were transported through the air by Maishi whispercopters, a combination helicopter and glider with vertical liftoff capability and rigid glider wings, not to mention enough armament to obliterate anything stupid enough to point more than a finger at it. The paralegals had several methods of entry in their manual, but their all-time favorite was ghost-like. They liked their quarry to wake up in a selfie map with no idea how they got there, no fatalities, and less paperwork. Abracadabra Street was no great challenge for a squadron that had broken into several foreign banks, 2 crime-lord strongholds, and a private kindergarten. They simply rappelled down the walls, set radio jammers to cancel out the motion sensors, and adhered large squares of glass soft into the windows. When the squadron leader gave the command, the paralegals passed the current through the softened squares and suckered the windows out of their panes. The entire procedure was covered by the building's heavy curtains. 2 dozen paralegals entered the premises through various entrances and set their goggles for body heat. When the command was given, they split into 4 groups and went after their specified targets. In truth, many of the paralegals felt slightly disappointed. They heard a lot about the vigilante Stefan Bashkir, and hoping he would make a real fight of it. But it looked like this would be done the easy way. Nobody would resist him here. It didn't even look like anyone was awake. Cosmo opened his eyes to find 3 Maishi paralegals in his cubicle. Huh. One was jacking a cartridge into his rod. Cosmo took a deep breath to inflate his chest. Well, you've done this before, said the paralegal, pulling the trigger. Mona, always a light sleeper, actually made out of bed before they got to her. Amazingly, for a girl with no formal combat training, she managed to incapacitate 2 paralegals before the third attacker was a shocker. She managed to incapacitate. They waited for her until she stopped shaking to hit her with a cellophane slug. Stefan heard the struggle of Mona's cubicle. He burst into his own cubicle, straight into the arms of half a dozen paralegals. Several more were packing up the Supernaturalists' weaponry and computers. For the first time in his life, Stefan went without a fight. You're making a mistake, he said, lacing his fingers behind his head. We're working for Maishi. Just contact President Faustino at the R&B department. I'm telling you, this is a mistake. The paralegal wrapped him in close range. That's what they all say, he said. Ditto was lying awake on his cot, fully clothed, his level back set for the morning, ready for the delivery. Pizza delivery, he said for the first paralegal through the door. No one likes a smart ass, said the man, as he wrapped him.